It's always important. How did you get started? Right?
Well, I'm Jerry Wagner, and we moved to this farm back in 1989, and we started conventional farming. And after about 3 years or so, we decided to go organic. And we had started going organic on my dad's farm before I moved here, but never got to that point. We knew some organic farmers in southern Minnesota, and so we delved into going toward that direction. But there was no place to sell our milk at the time until '92. Then we got on with Organic Valley. But about '90, we looked into intensive rotational grazing. We started grazing, I can't remember what the name of the outfit was at the time. It was, anyway, they were active at the time and they're not anymore, I don't think. But anyway, we bought some poly wire and started fencing every day just below where the cow yard is. And it was fairly simple. The cows went after the grass, you know, and they had good quality feed, and they milked better, and that's how we got started with that. And then we started across the road, and then we, year after year after year, we made more permanent paddocks, and we bought the right kind of poly wire and high tensile wire, and I guess one thing led to another, and we were grazing several acres. But and we graze everything now: the calves, the heifers. We got heifers on 2 other farms. We're grazing intensively there also, and the cows get about I'd say 60 acres here at home, something like that.
Yeah.
So, and over the years, we started out the first few years, and we noticed at times during the summer the grass would turn moldy, you know, and I don't know what that was, some kind of a spore, but we've been using, you know, fertilizing and things our own way. We make compost, and we really don't see much of that anymore. So I think we're getting ahead of the game. But also, well, we make compost. I mentioned that, but in that process, we make our own fertilizer. So we currently we put in fertilizer in the compost windrows the last couple weeks of turning it. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks to make it, and we bought a compost turner to do it. We've been doing that since you went skiing in Denver. When was that?
Mid-2000s?
Yeah. So it's been a while, but by doing that, we've seen our forage levels go up in sugar, nutrients, to the point where they're off the charts on your forage. When you send a forage sample in on a hay, for instance, instead of being 1.5 to 4.5 or 5 or whatever it is on sugars, it's up to 13.5% sometimes. So we feed a lot less corn now, hardly any, just enough to carry the minerals and things. So it makes it all a little more profitable when you do all that ourselves. But we've done all sorts of things raising calves. We had calves and hutches for a while, and then penned them up individually and fed them with a bottle and let them run with the cows. And this year we had so many of them fresh, and in March we made pens of 4 in this new heifer shed we built, just a shed, I mean, not a heifer shed, but, and so we had 16 calves in there within 3 weeks, and feeding them on these, what do you call them, Brandon?
Peach nipples?
Peach teats.
Peach teats,
yeah, they got 5 nipples on a feeder, and
Nipple barrels.
nipple barrel, they feed themselves, so we just pour
No, we get
5
16
gallon pails
cows in a
in.
group and feed them all, and works fast.
Brandon does more of that than I do. I just help set it up. But.
No, it sounds like you do a lot of experimenting.
I guess you could say
Every day is a
that.
new experiment.
Like, what are you hearing?
I I've worked with you for a long time, so I kind of know the different experiments you've done over the years. Now, what type of breed did you start out with?
We had Holsteins to start out with. And
They're not as good grazers.
And why?
Feet and legs aren't as good.
And
I like the
they don't like flies either.
black color. Seems like sometimes they get hotter than the red ones we have now.
And what kind of expedited the transition?
How we did it, we went to a milking shorthorn sale by Hudson there, and bought our first shorthorn and tried out, and then we went there a second year and bought a couple more, and then we got a bull.
It was mainly the calving ease.
That was a big deal.
Yeah, big deal for us. Calving ease. We don't pull out any calves anymore, so that's what I like about them.
And how do they perform on the grass?
They get fat.
That's exactly right. We butchered a cow a couple weeks ago,
Oh,
and we made some.
Brock's has never seen a fatter one.
Yeah,
Fat.
but the stuff that's supposed to be without fat, with
Beef sticks.
the beef sticks, they got too much fat in them, so they look funny because.
Because they're too white?
And that was a cow.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're a dual-purpose animal, and that's the cow weighed 1,650 pounds. You know, it was like, or more. I don't know. We didn't weigh her, but she was heavy.
And now, have you done seasonal calving, year-round calving?
Semi-seasonal.
Semi-seasonal.
Is that's where you landed for the sweet spot?
Sort of land for the sweet spot in the spring, and also no calves in the winter.
Okay.
From about Christmas time on to end of February, we don't
First
have
of March, yeah.
any calves. It's just you always have a greater loss, greater sickness. Seems like so. And nobody likes feeding calves in winter time.
Yeah, starting on the fingers.
Yeah. So we just choose not to have any calves then, and it's been working out.
And now, introduce you, Branden.
Oh, Branden Wagner, Jerry's son. Been farming here my whole life, so many years as you have, pretty much.
And what was the draw to stay farming?
I don't know. It was in my blood, I guess. I've done many other jobs, but I always come back, so I don't know.
Because for a while there, you were also custom building milking parlors.
I've done many other jobs. Yes, I've done boiler building and hydros, and I've done building a custom custom operation of haying. That was 10 years, 15 years we did that. And nope, I'm just gonna go back to farming.
So what is your draw? What do you like about grazing?
The ease of it. When the cows get out in the first time of the spring, you don't have the manure at all. Your TMR mix has gone down to nothing, and it's just easier, I feel.
Does it give you more opportunity to do other things?
Yeah, I think it's. Yep, I think so. I think there's more time in the summer than there's in the winter because of less chores, generally speaking.
And do your animals seem healthier?
Yeah, once you get the fertility up in your pastures, I think it's, yeah.
And what kind of grasses do you have out there?
Well, we got the bluegrass, orchard, timothy, brome, and then we're trying to get the tall fescues, meadow fescues, even a little canary here and there. So.
A wide variety.
Yeah.
So why not just go with one species?
Because a variety is better for the cattle, I think.
Why should you go after one mineral? Let's get them all. In fact, some of the things we use in our compost says that. The last 2 years we put C90, which is sea salt, in the compost, which comes out of the Baja California, but it's got 92 trace elements in it.
Okay.
So now you're talking on sand, we don't have that many elements to begin with, much less traces. So to get a healthy, balanced animal or anything, you want to have all that available so that so you can build a healthy animal or a healthy plant,
And you have a farm that's relatively sandy
relatively.
Yes.
and dry.
Can be.
Do you still grow burdocks
Mm.
and
Sandburrs.
sandburrs? I remember walking
Okay.
Sandburrs.
pastures and the
Red
shoelaces.
sorrel. No red sorrel left.
Okay.
It's all gone. And dandelions, so that's gonna go eventually.
Do you do strategic outwintering?
In the woods.
Okay.
Sheltering.
Yep, shelter for the woods. Yes, we do have an out up the valley there, and we have a nice spot for them. So
Do you think that has been detrimental to the woodlot? Or do you think it's had,
the trees don't like where they huddle, and the trees are gone now in that little spot, but it hasn't grown. Like the trees are, you know, I can replant the trees if I have to, but yeah.
It's in a valley,
It's
so
in a valley. It's
we want trees up on the hills on both
Yeah.
sides to prevent the northwest wind.
so it's
So it's perfect.
it is actually really nice.
Even if the valley is bare, it doesn't matter.
has it turned into more of a meadow during the summertime? Does it get to rest during the summer?
Yeah, there's nobody in. As soon as this frost leaves, the cattle are gone.
Okay.
Yep, I know otherwise it makes the mud hole. So
Does something grow?
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
we plant grass up there every year.
Okay. And do you do a mix or,
Italian ryegrass.
okay, that's good and aggressive?
Yeah.
Keeps growing.
It keeps growing.
Now, how did you fence your farm?
Well, after 15 years, we finally got a perimeter fence up.
More of it, you mean? Yeah.
You know what that's like?
Yeah.
But the perimeter fences are nice.
And what kind of fence did you put in?
Spring loaded,
High tension.
high tensile, wooden posts on the corners.
3 strands, 2
2 to
strands?
3.
Okay.
2 to 3. Yep. Along the major highways up there, we put 3. And
And how big are your paddocks?
healthy 2 acres.
About 2 acres, 2.5 acres, some of them, yeah.
And then do you graze them that way or do you subdivide them out?
Depends on the season. If it's a lot of grass, we'll cut it in half or a third.
Yeah, it's been down to a
And-
day and a half in one paddock before now, and then when it gets dry, sometimes it's a half a day in one paddock. So
Right.
we've had both ways, I guess.
And because your farm is light, how do you handle no rain? How do you manage your pastures and stay profitable as a dairy when we don't have a lot of rain?
The first thing I do is cut the dry cows behind and get them out of there because it's too hard on the grass. So what I know is if you can get in and out of there within a day, it helps a lot. But if you're out there with cattle and they're for longer than 3 to 5 days, when it gets dry, that's really hard on them. The grasses.
And you also increase the TMR a little,
Yeah.
because you don't want to rotate them real fast, otherwise you're back on it too fast. You
Back
got
on
to
it too
kind of do the
fast.
same rotation and feed them a little extra in the bunk if they need it.
To slow them down?
But the
Yes.
best thing you do is leave your stubble a little bit longer and the grass will come back quicker. So
And how has this year started off in terms of a grazing season? We're just at the beginning of May.
yeah. It's
Middle of
different.
May.
It's different. It started out really nice and warm about a month and a half ago. Now we got cold and grasses are headed out. But
The legumes are pretty short.
yeah, it's an odd year.
Dry?
Dry,
enough.
yes. We only had maybe a half-inch rain on the last week here, but
Yeah. It's dry
before that
enough.
we maybe had an inch in the last month. Two.
And when we were coming over, we talked all the way back to last September.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair time. is-
October was, it was dry all fall.
Yep.
Mhm.
All winter.
No snow.
Not much.
Let's see what else. How do you decide when your pasture or when an area is ready to be grazed?
Well, I think on this, you know, you can go by every 25 to 30 days usually, you know,
Once you get going,
once you get going. But the first grazing, we like to run through super fast one time, get the pasture in a rotation. so it gets the rotation going, and then
It also gets the cows' stomachs going in the right direction
yeah.
for grazing slowly.
but usually when it starts greening up, you get a couple 3-4 inches of grasses out there. You want to get them rotating fastly.
Set the wedge.
Set the wedge, yeah. Otherwise, you have all your pastures ready at the same time.
And the way the grass is developed, you a lot of times do anyway. When this time of year
It's
now,
hard,
they all
yeah.
head when they're
Yeah,
this high or
it's-
this high. It's-
You can see a weed difference out there though, but it's
Oh yeah.
it's
And then that's when it helps to have the dry cows right behind the cows, so whatever clumps they don't eat, the dry cows will come and chew off, so they don't they don't head out on you and be dry grass for the next.
Do you leader follower then?
That's what you call it?
Yep. Leader
Yes.
follower? And what made you decide to do leader follower?
I don't know. I think
I like doing it right now, and then maybe cut the dry cows out later on in the summer. Because right now, if you do it right now,
it is the most important time.
push the grasses in a vegetative stage instead of so much pushing energy into that seed head. So the grass will heat out all summer long. It just right now it's nice to be kind of pushing down hard, and then they'll be more vegetative stage throughout the summer, I think.
Okay. Let's see. How far typically down do you graze in your sward?
I'd say the orchard glass clumps are about 6 inches maybe, and then the bluegrass is bluegrass, a couple inches I suppose.
And they can handle that.
It can bluegrass and white clovers are usually together out there.
And do you reseed your pastures? Kind of what's your pasture management strategy?
Not much for seed, I guess. Just where we are aggressively.
A sacrifice paddock like we
sacrifice.
have out there right now from this early spring when we got them out of the valley.
Hmm.
That'll have to be seeded down now.
But not much.
No.
And that's just to fill in the gaps?
Yeah.
That was a place to put them to get them out of the valley where they make a mud hole and disturb the rest of the trees and things. So.
Right.
And we usually rotate that, so each year we have a different one to do, which helps
Hmm.
get more legumes in the mix.
Do you have a hard time growing legumes here?
No.
Not growing them, but keeping them.
Okay.
So the grasses always take over. So.
What are your legumes of choice?
Well, we've got different
White
variations
clover
of red clover and white clover and alfalfa, creeping alfalfa we use.
I wouldn't mind seeing more of the birchwood trefoil.
Trefoil, yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't had that for several years, but
Like creeping alfalfa, I'm kind of interested in too a little bit. That seems.
we've had some of that in the past.
So-
It's supposed to take grazing and
Mhm.
keep new shoots coming, but we haven't had great success doing any of it to keep it there. So I don't know what to keep it all there.
Fertilizer.
I guess we'll get to that point. We also have done in our compost, and we did that on some of the pastures probably too, is we added some seed.
Mm-hmm.
Right before we spread the compost, we'll add seed, and then that goes out there with the compost. So now you have the seed, and the fertilizer, and you get a rain on it, and there's a mat that grows in real nicely. So it's a nice way to get it started, even though you have something else there. Otherwise, it has a hard time competing.
Right.
And we've also, the last 3 or 4 years, we bought a power harrow. And that we could set that about a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch deep, and it goes around and we'll spread our seed and compost on the area, and then we'll go across with that, and that kind of works up a little bit, but the grasses that are there still come back.
That's more for the hay fields, but
Yeah, but we set them back enough to where they're not competing so bad with the new seedlings.
Because you just kind of shave off the top of the root mass, don't you?
After like third crop in the fall,
Okay.
take our worst hay fields and we'll do that for interseed.
We may do
We
the same
don't-
thing on
we
this
don't
paddock here.
Till up anything anymore, so.
And why not?
'Cause I don't like to raise corn and beans.
Because you don't have to.
We tried sorghum Sudan, but that's a high nitrogen. I don't know. We don't have to, I guess. We learned how to farm without tilling it up, and it works for us.
Well, you got to add that energy capability with the calcium in the compost to to solubilize that in that windrow, and that builds your energy in the feed. And we've had Will Winter out here and grazing through a pasture walk, and he checked our bricks at the time. I think it was around 18 or something, was it? So that was back when we're more intensively putting calcium on now, but we're building sugars.
And when you talk about calcium, describe what you're talking about.
High calcium lime.
Okay.
Until just now, we look at our soil samples and our feed samples, and our magnesium is kind of borderline. We've been doing it for 25 years, high calcium lime. So now I got a couple loads of dolomitic lime, so we're going to make the magnesium back in the mix for 1 year, and then go back to high cal again probably, because you get plenty of magnesium out of. We're thinking one time we'll do it. And of course, these soils are also low in selenium, and selenium deficient feeds lead to problems with the cows too. So this last year and this year too now, we started adding selenium to the compost, which is unheard of, but we've seen an increase in selenium in the hay.
Oh.
So when I asked our feed man, I said, what's it supposed to be? Well, he says, I don't know. I mean, put it in my computer and see if they say you got to add some more, but there's no, how much do you add? It's just up in the air, you don't know. But when you make compost, that carbon molecule holds all those nutrients, and they don't leach away like they used to. We also add boron in the compost. And so what do you call it? That SR65 would be Redmond clay with Redmond salt combination. Our no salt fertilizers for so many years, I think it's catching up with us too. So we have to add a little salt.
Little salt's not bad.
We all need salt. Even the microbes need salt. So by taking everything away, you're.
And we're parts per million too. It's not.
Yeah, it's not huge.
No.
But it creates a balance.
It does.
It's about balance.
It's about balance.
More than NPK.
Yes.
All the way down to Z.
A to Z.
Okay, so one from each of you, okay? What is an example of a grazing lesson you learned the hard way?
Cows go by line of sight. When you
Explain that.
They see the barn, and that's the direction they want to go. They don't want to go over there to where the gate is. So if you're setting up your pastures, make sure the cows go to, or have a gate on the right side of your paddocks. Because they like to go the one direction. They don't want to go to some other spot where you have your lane figured out the wrong way. Because I've seen that happen before.
Cows don't want to go backwards.
No. They see the barn, that's the direction they want to go.
And we learned that before we set our permanent fences up.
Yeah.
Normally you'd go down the lane and make a, but we had to do it so they were angled toward the barn a little bit to make that happen.
And does that make livestock movement easier?
It does.
Yes.
But now that was Branden's.
Yeah.
What's Jerry's?
Well, mine was probably years ago. We had, the cattle got out a lot, and we had to go to a low impedance fencer. That was a big deal back then, to get a low impedance fencer, because that goes for miles. We had fence all over, but that was a milestone when we got to the low impedance fencer to keep cows in.
Did it make a big difference?
I think it did.
And did you properly ground it?
Oh yes, we got 2 deep ground rods out here grounding it. If you don't, you don't have the effect. And more recently, we've gone to fencers, portable ones on batteries, out
Solar fencers.
Solar fencers for a ways away from the buildings, so we keep the power up instead of being so far away with
You know, they work good. Just extra battery packs.
Yep.
Figure out how to get extra batteries there because it's cloudy for 3 days. It's
Marginal.
marginal, yeah. But
Well, this is great.
Well, I'm Jerry Wagner, and here at Black River Falls. We moved here in '89, and we're still farming here.
I'm Branden and Wagner, his son, and I've been farming here almost as many years as you have. And still farming.
Oh, you're right. Yes. Oh, and you're talking.